Well, California is reeling from 3 mass shootings in the span of 3 days. More than a dozen people have been killed since last Saturday at a ballroom, 2 farms, and a gas station.
1 person died in the gas station shooting. In the shooting at the farms, 7 people were killed. The sheriff says the alleged gunman then drove himself to the parking lot of the sheriff's station and waited. Deputies closed in and got him to the ground.
They had their guns drawn, took several asks. And then he got out of the car, and eventually he was taken down to the ground by them.
Police believe the suspect worked at one of the farm facilities, but they're still trying to determine a motive.
In Monterey Park, a vigil is planned for later today, honoring the 11 victims of the attack on the ballroom dance studio. And 12 News law enforcement analyst Stephen O'Donnell joins us live now in studio. A few things that stick out to me about these recent shootings. One, is there anything that ties these together other than the fact that they all took place in California in 3 days?
Not yet was being reported publicly, so they're going to have to analyze that to see if that's the case. It appears from all news reports and police reports is that they're separated incidents. One's a workplace violence and one appears to be some type of anger management issue, someone walking into the dance studio. The difference in both, one, they apprehended a suspect on the second one, and the first one, that suspect got disarmed by interested party, I think the dance studio's son, and it's on video. And it's amazing that that person did not use violence against the shooter, and then the shooter left and was apprehended, and then killed himself sometime later. So they'll see if there's a connection, but what happens here, probably across the country, is the community that's impacted is every community, not just the Asian community. Those who were victimized, that reverberates through the country. Everybody's connected in some capacity, and so the fusion centers throughout every state will be vigilant, and you can rest assured in every state they're out talking to the leaders of the community that were victimized, because the fear is real that these things can happen. Sometimes these defendants watch what other defendants do. You don't know until you can figure it all out. Is it a copycat, or is someone just angry that just did what they did? So it's a totally different environment out there with the anger, the mental health issues. You know, people talk about the gun issue, but it's the person pulling that trigger that is the one that really has to be addressed.
Well, one other thing that stuck out to me so far in the reporting is the age of the suspects in these cases. The Monterey Park suspect was 72. The shooter in Half Moon Bay is 67. We do associate these mass shootings so often with young men. Again, they are only suspects at the moment, but did that take you by surprise as someone who watches this?
It did. Historically, 95% of active shooters are young men, young white men. So they're outside the norm. But workplace violence, which appears to be the second one in Half Moon Bay, can happen anywhere. The first one, you know, because the suspect's deceased, he's dead, there's no way of knowing yet until they do analysis of his phones, his family and friends to figure out motive. But what happens is these people in the active shooter world, they pay attention to the one before them. Sometimes it may be a grudge at work, or sometimes they want to have more people die than before. So it's a major issue that I think the government has to start dealing with when it comes to the mental health piece. There's no question, if you do something like this, you have some mental health. And I'd be shocked if we don't hear in the next couple of weeks that both of them had reached out in some capacity, or anger on Facebook or on social media or Instagram, somewhere where there were signs. And then how far can law enforcement go, you know, gathering that data? So that's the balance I think that this country has to figure out to help stop this.
Now, these recent mass shootings happened in California, which has some of, if not the strictest gun laws in the country. What does that say to you?
Yeah, I don't think it's that you can legislate the gun piece of it. I think a lot of states are very strict. Some don't have strict, and some that don't have strict gun laws have less of these active shooters. There's really no rhyme or reason. There's no anecdotal studies on it, but it's without a question in my mind, from experience, it's the mental health piece, that a lot of the people that have a lot of things going on, there's no therapy there, and you have to self-assess, and you can't force an adult into therapy if they're talking, you know, about carnage or mass murder. Somebody has to intervene, and if the families can't intervene, which sometimes they have no legal right to do that for an adult, somehow you don't want the government overreach, but if somebody is talking about these type of events, you know, multiple people being killed, something has to be done.
12 News law enforcement analyst Stephen O'Donnell, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
No, thank you.